Welcome back, my friends. If you're not quite sure about what this video is all about, go and check out part 1 here. It had been 20 years. 20 years since the destruction of planet Vegeta, thanks to that cursed asteroid. Jocha, Vegeta, and Nappa were now the last 3 Saiyans left within the Frieza Force, and as far as they knew, in existence. The rest of the remaining Monkey Brigade that had gone onto the Frieza Force over the years had either slipped away into the darkness of deep space, perished in combat, or succumbed to either old age or an irate Frieza on a bad day. This was a terrible time to be alive. In fact, she felt that her family had, ultimately, gotten off pretty easy. At least they didn't have to suffer the indignation of being in the direct servitude of Lord Frieza as nothing more than a pet simian to him. At least on planet Vegeta, they had some room to breathe, some kind of freedom and some kind of privacy from the tyrant. Here, they weren't afforded that comfort, and to top it all off, the prince was still determined to claim her as his woman. And as they got older, it got all the more tempestuous. Their monarchy was dead. Surely that meant the betrothal bull would have been wiped out along with their homeworld. They could be free to choose other people, but no. It didn't help that Nappa kept insisting that the bloodline and betrothal things would go along for the rest of eternity. Oh, come on, Jocha! We'll be keeping the line going and your kids will be strong! Oh, no such thing with that short stack. Vegeta's ears twitched a little, but he had heard that rhetoric so many times now it lost all meaning. He rarely got angry over it anymore. Jocha excused herself and pretended to head off to a very small quarters located on Frieza Planet 79. A lot emptier these days. That building, it was mainly just the 3 of them. She looked at herself in the mirror when she got in. She had grown up into a very strong Saiyan elite. Thanks to the rigors of working for Frieza on the front lines and taking her job very seriously, and also trying to keep up with the puny prince, and Nappa wanting to have some fun wiping out random worlds along the way, so basically loads and loads and loads and loads of side quests, she had amassed a power level of 10,000, the same as her father. But wait, that's double Nappa's, I hear you say. Well, yes, she has the potential after all to get that power, and like Goku, she is quick to adapt and improve, when she actually puts her mind to it, and isn't a sneak like Raditz. Nappa never tried to beat her up or take advantage of her because she was a woman. No, he had taken both her and Vegeta under his wing from a very young age, and it was his duty, what was left of the Saiyan monarchy, to keep them vertical, alive and healthy. And that he would do, no matter who was in charge. He was a brute and a thug, but at least Nappa had some sense of decorum and decency. She ruffled her rather substantial hair in frustration. It wasn't long or flowing or anything like that, but it was quite a substantial do, with a streak of mane flowing over her right eye and covering her scouter as a result. She had managed to have it cut that way thanks to a very talented barber on a merchant world who had strong enough implements to handle Saiyan hair. She was a decent 5'9", the same height as her younger brother actually would be, and possessed a very impressive scar across her throat from a very unfortunate altercation on a nearby Brenshin bar a few years back. She yearned to get out of this mess, but how? The opportunity arose on one fact-finding mission on Frieza Planet 63, the Archive World. Remember how some Saiyans had managed to escape the regime on their own? Well, turns out they actually hadn't gotten away scot-free. Lord Frieza one day had gotten the itch to go and try and find them again. Try and bring some Saiyans back, screaming and kicking, to bolster up their Saiyan numbers because it had gotten a little bit thin on the ground. Bring them back to where they belonged, under my foot. And to make it funnier for himself, why not make his remaining band of apes be the ones to do it? The irony is hilarious, he would constantly regale to anyone who would listen. Vegeta managed to blag his way out of it, and Nappa wasn't the smartest cabbage in the salad drawer, so it was up to Jocha alone to do the heavy lifting of many books and computer logs. It was a very tedious experience. At least it was for the first 20 hours. Whilst Nappa and Vegeta went off to debauch themselves in the cantinas of Frieza Planet 63, Jocha logged and reported various errand pod trajectories and course changes throughout the entire period of Frieza's dominance over the Saiyans, or what was left of them, that had deviated from the pre-programmed flight plans. Then she spotted one that was very much out of sync with the others. This one came from the days when Planet Vegeta was still around. A Saiyan pod, not having had pre-approved clearance, had left the atmosphere and was headed towards a region of central northern galaxy. What made it weird is that it was the last logged entry of a Saiyan pod exiting the planet before it, well, blew up. Hello, you. You look like fun. She had no idea who it was, but this was a very long-term deserter. If she managed to bring this one in, Frieza might actually look at her with a little bit of favour, maybe allowing her to split off from the prince once and for all and join maybe another band of mercenaries who are actually as good as her, preferably ones who are less repulsive and creepy. But that would be very hard to find in the Frieza Force. There are a lot of creeps out there. In any case, it would be better than what she had. She finished up in the archives, copied over the trajectory and coordinates, and then went to go and try and find Vegeta and Nappa, who are deep into their drinking session with a surprisingly gregarious Dodoria. Well, if it ain't Dodoria, didn't expect to see your face around books, Jocha. Dodoria, who again was quite tipsy, missed the jibe.
Hey look, it's Jocha, the one who can't take a joke-cha. Why are you lugging them tones, sweetie? It's drinking time.
Nappa and Vegeta laughed at the joke. Yep, they were all plastered, utterly gazeboed. There was no way they'd be hanging out with this guy if they were sober. Whatever. I'm gonna go on a little monkey hunt. Don't touch my stuff, okay?
Yeah, whatever.
They were far too into their inebriation to care. Perfect. With that, Jocha programmed her pod and followed the breadcrumb trail that was left from long ago, back when she was but a small child. She had no idea what they would look like, whoever this imposter was, how strong they were, or whether even they were Saiyan or would come along quietly. No matter, it was different enough to be curious. However, it was starting to get a little too different as she progressed. She hadn't expected this chase to take so long. Days, in fact, before anything concrete. She was even starting to consider placing the pod into stasis mode and waiting it out until the trail had actually found its route. Yes, of course, she stopped on various worlds for food, water, and the occasional bit of argy-bargy with some irritating wildlife every now and again that would dare to get in her way, and maybe take out some bounty hunters that were out for Saiyan meat, but for the most part, she was determined to bring in this clown, whoever it was, who thought they could slip by undetected. It was suspicious too, since it was within mere minutes of the planet exploding, almost like the guy knew what was about to happen. Could they have been involved in it? Maybe it wasn't an asteroid that doomed them all. Strange. Anyway, she had plenty of questions for them upon her arrival. In the end, it took her 3 months to get to a point where the trail was starting to thin. Vegeta had tried to get in contact, but her scouter transmissions were garbled messes, so he really couldn't get heads or tails as to where she was. And they were so irksome too, that she had actually taken her scouter off. After all, what was the point of wearing the thing when you weren't doing anything with it? When she woke up, she had entered the solar system and spotted that the final resting place of that scouter was in this area. The final place of the escapee was on a planet called Earth. Wow, this guy's good, she said, very intrigued at the level of determination in not wanting to be found. This was a good bet. Within minutes, she had slammed into the ground of Earth and was ready to start her investigations. She had thought about trying to contact Vegeta, since this was actually a pretty fun and unexpected turn of events. But then she thought back through the 3 months that she spent on her own, for the first time since she had been sequestered with he and Nappa. It had been some of the best moments of her life, and that wasn't saying much. Nah, if this turned out to be a bust, she'd go back in her own time. Besides, Vegeta seemed not to care that much despite thinking about the bloodline. Showed his true priorities, right? He was off having fun of his own accord. Guess he must have just been parroting his father's words instead of actually meaning them. Good. Less hassle for her. She turned on the scouter and muted her mic, scanning the planet for any abnormal life forms. Curious. This was a very quiet and peaceful world, and the power level showed it. If a Saiyan had landed here, surely it would be in a much darker mess. The vast majority of the energy she could read were barely creeping into double figures. She leapt up into the air and flew around for a while before a scouter began to whir into life, reading off a couple of dozen power levels that read above 100, and 2 over 300. That was it. Gotcha. This is too easy, she thought, reckoning that the fugitive had hoped to not fight anyone in this backwater. Well, they hadn't figured her. This had taken her to a place called Papaya Island, and there seemed to be a big raucous going down today. It didn't take her too long to figure out the reason though. There was some kind of contest of strength going on, in progress, and most of the combatants had been eliminated. Only 2 remained in the ring according to the voices being carried through the air. She blended in and walked around the crowds, not wanting to arouse suspicion. But they knew, the Dragon Team, that she was coming. Master Roshi was the one to alert the group of this incoming power, him being able to sense energy from the get-go. A power he had never felt before in his life. Well, maybe Goku reminded him of somewhat, but this was far beyond Goku. He told the others to keep calm and await for this being to make themselves known. It's not wise to start something any sooner than we need to. Be careful, guys. Goku and Piccolo in the ring could sense it too, but the latter was determined to get his revenge on his father. He didn't care whoever showed up. Jocha, blissfully unaware of all of this since she relied on scouters, found a spot at the front of the crowd, keen to see who these two strong guys were. The green guy was kind of weird, but she recognized what kind of thing it was. A Namekian warrior, huh? Didn't realize they were still knocking around. Interesting. She looked at the other one and... my god. Her eyes widened. That hair! Those 4 giant spikes of hair! Exactly like her father Bardock's! No, there was no mistaking it. That fugitive wasn't a miscreant at all. It was Kakarot! She shrieked from the stands. Goku whipped around and spotted the source of the shout. And the power. He gasped in both terror and awe. That is until Piccolo caught him napping and had begun to attack him, taking the former's mind off the surprising twist. Right now, Jocha was the happiest she had been since before those elites had whisked her away. Kakarot had survived after all! It had to be him! Goku was thrust back into the fight and was doing his best to not be thrown out of the ring. The rest of the Dragon Team daren't get involved since the power of this woman was far beyond anything they could ever muster combined. But for now though, she didn't seem like a threat. In fact, it was almost like she knew Goku, but by a different name. Interesting. Whilst Roshi kept an eye on this lady, and kept a very thorough eye on her, the fight between Goku and Piccolo continued like in the original. Jocha was amazed with the agility and speed of her supposed younger brother. Despite his minuscule power level compared to her, it was like he had discipline beyond his power, and a technique that far eclipsed his battle power. "Excuse me, lady," piped up a rather striking and brash teenage lass wearing red and blue clothes and jet black hair. "How do you know my Goku?" Roshi winced at the sight of Chi-Chi confronting this unknown force. But she couldn't sense energy, so thusly wasn't scared of this woman, especially one who knew her future husband. Had he been having an affair? "Goku?" said Jocha with confusion. She turned back to the fight, nonplussed. "Well, that's Kakarot, I think." "He's Goku, my fiancé, and don't you get any ideas about taking him away from me. I saw him first!" Jocha was thoroughly flummoxed by this irate lady, but she recalled the term fiancé and what that meant. "Kakarot got a woman of his own? Nice." She was happy to see that her brother had made a life for himself and scored a woman. She grabbed Chi-Chi's hands with joy. "I can't believe it. Kakarot found himself a strong gal. You have no idea how happy I am to see all of this." Chi-Chi hadn't expected such an amiable and enthusiastic response from someone who looked like she'd walked off a battlefield 10 minutes ago. "So what's with Kakarot, huh?" "Goku!" shrieked Chi-Chi. "Yeah, fine, Goku," said Jocha with air quotes. "How come he knows these cool moves despite being so weak?" "What? What are you talking about? Goku is one of the strongest, if not the strongest guys on the planet. This is what this tournament's all about, finding the strongest on the planet." "Really? From where I come from, these are like fetuses, seriously. I had a power level of like 400 something at birth. That's more than what your bow has." Chi-Chi was shocked. Goku's power was being compared to an infant from her neck of the woods? Could you teach me? What? Jocha dodged the question and used the battle between her brother and the Namekian as a distraction. Piccolo had grown into a giant and that horrified the entire area except for Jocha. "Oh cool, giant powers, forgot they had them." "They? Oh, that green guy over there? He's a Namekian, freaky alien." Chi-Chi looked dumbfounded. "What? You guys never seen an alien before?" "Oh man, good thing you prepared me." She rolled her eyes and realized this acclamation to her presence was gonna be awkward. In the end, the battle ended, and even though she could have intervened and helped her brother, she chose not to see what her brother could actually do. Turned out he could do a lot. When Piccolo had made his escape, noting the presence of Jocha and ambiguous power, Goku took a senzu bean and assured the others that he was okay. He spotted Jocha and called out to her. "Hey you! I saw you watching the fight. What did you think?" He clearly thought she was no threat, And indeed, she wouldn't be. Oh, it was decent. You're kind of weak, though. He laughed. Yup! Compared to you, I'm small fry. Who are you, anyway? Jocha gulped. Here we go! And she then began to explain everything to the dragon team. This time a lot more tactfully and less angrily than Raditz did in the original. But that's where we're going to be leaving things right now. But don't forget, if you want to vote for this to continue, be ready for when the poll comes out on May the 1st. Catch you later.